Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott Selections here for Sunday, June 9th. There will be no play of the day. We have not been running well in the last couple of days, and I simply just don't like the card. But with that being said, we'll quickly recap what happened yesterday. For fun, as I said yesterday, I was going to the Belmont Stakes, so our play of the day turned out to be on the main race, with Tacitus winning at roughly plus 175 in the pre-race odds. It ended up closing at roughly plus 180, something along those lines. Tacitus ended up coming in second, but you don't get any points for the silver medal in this case, as Sir Winston at a 10-1 ended up winning the race. Pretty underwhelming race, to be honest, but overall is definitely still an entertaining experience. And with that being said, we ended up losing on that play. It was pretty close. I know somebody in the comment section of the last video did say that they like Sir Winston to win the thing. I forgot who that was, though. Props to you. If that was you, then you can simply just comment after the video and I'll give you the props and the shout out that you deserve, because that's definitely an impressive call with predicting a 10-1 shot to win the race. But with that being said, we'll quickly dive into the leans for Sunday. The first game that everyone wants to talk about, of course, is Game 6 between the Boston Bruins and the St. Louis Blues, as this is a case where there could be a championship celebration tonight. How if the Blues win, then they end up winning their first Stanley Cup in franchise history. I'm rooting for them to do so because of the fact that Boston doesn't deserve any more nice things in the sports world. I feel like they've won enough championships with the Red Sox and the Patriots and even the Celtics. It'd be nice to see some new blood. But with that being said, I'm not personally going to be betting on this game, but I will be giving out my leans for it because this is definitely the game that everybody has circled on their sports, calendar of the, or just everything on the, in comparison to the other sporting events today, is definitely the highest profile event. So with that being said, I'm going to start out there. In terms of this game, I'm actually going to lean to the Bruins here. I know that might come as a shock because of how well the Blues played, but there's one thing that I've learned in the NHL playoffs, as well as the Stanley Cup Finals in particular. Momentum doesn't really mean anything. And I feel like teams, when they're expected to win, just tend to lose. And also, you've had the Blues who have been impacted by some suspensions after some of the questionable elbows to the head that they were giving out in Game 5, in which they were able to steal a road victory away from the Bruins with a 2-1 victory. But overall, the Blues have all the pressure. I know that the Bruins are facing elimination, but I think everybody knowing the stakes in St. Louis and how the fact that they've never won a championship before can only amplify the amount of stress that they're actually going through. Of course, it's all speculation, but I definitely think the Bruins have less pressure on them because I don't think anybody's really picking the Bruins to win this game. But at the same point, I still think that the Bruins are the better team. But the Blues are also going to be dealing with a suspension to a very underrated contributor on their team in Ivan Barbashev, who has been suspended for one of his illegal hits that he made in Game 5. So with that being said, I think that the Blues will actually miss him in his absence. The Bruins, they came out flat in Game 5, and the Blues absolutely took it to them. I believe they outshot the Bruins by at least 15. I expect the Bruins to show up with a little bit more focus and a little bit more juice offensively. I know that Bennington was fantastic in Game 5, but I definitely think the Bruins will try to get pucks on net and will try to get bodies in front to try to get Bennington out of his game. So I'm going to actually lean to the Bruins here. I think the series will go 7, and I think that with value on the Bruins are roughly plus 105 or plus 110, depending on where you shop around. I definitely think there is value on the Bruins there. So other than that, I will also lean to the over 5 in this game, which is available at roughly minus 130. A lot of juice to the over after what happened in the last game. I still think it's going to go over because of the empty net potential in the end of the game. If you are afraid of the full game over, I'd recommend the third period over, because you should end up seeing at least one empty net opportunity, which could easily help push that bet over the total. But with that being said, going to dive into the rest of the betting card in baseball. I know that I ended up missing the first 5 or 6 games. Apologize about that. There are a couple of games starting in about 10 minutes. In first game, you have the Bruins and not the Bruins. I'm sorry. You have the Brewers and the Pirates facing off at roughly 210 with Balt versus Anderson. Anderson's been solid this season, but he got absolutely shelled by the Marlins in his last start. Money's still come on him. He's up to roughly minus 190. Total's been bet down from 10 to 9.5. I still lean to the over here. I've never been a big Chase Anderson guy. I know that he did pitch well for the majority of the season. Brault's not great by any means. Both offenses have looked good in the series. I think this total's too low. I don't really understand why money's come in on the under. I will lean to the over 9.5. I think both teams should generate at least 10, 11 runs in this game, so I'll lean to the over. Moving on, you have the Orioles and the Astros. I'm going to lean to the under 8.5 simply just because I've leaned to the over in the first two games. They've gone well under. Both offenses don't seem to have that much momentum at this point in time. Miley doesn't have great stuff, but he has been very crafty this season, and he has done pretty well. Bundy has not been good this season, but he does have decent stuff. The only question is if he can command it and if he could limit the amount of home runs he's given up. But the Astros have still been dealing with a plethora of injuries to their key players in Springer, Correa, and Altuve. So their lineup is not nearly as strong as it usually is. So I will lean to the under 8.5 there. Moving on, you have the White Sox and the Royals. White Sox won 2-0. Giolito should be in the running for the AL Cy Young Award. He's been absolutely fantastic. With Lopez and Sparkman, I lean to the over 9.5 here. I know that the line has been bet down from 10 to 9.5. Sparkman was pretty solid in his last start against the Red Sox. Lopez was okay. Not really that great, but I definitely think both the lineups, especially with the bullpens involved, I think both lineups will get it going today, and I think they will both generate at least 10 runs in this game combined, so I'll lean to the over there. Moving on, you have the A's versus the Rangers. Kind of a rare situation here where the team going for the sweep and the team with the better record is currently, a very big underdog, where Oakland, a team that's potentially going to lose the series, are going to lose their last three to the Rangers potentially, and they're in worse position. They have worse record than the Rangers, yet they're a minus 200 favorite, and that solely has to do with the pitching matchup in this game with Montes versus Smiley. Smiley statistically has been arguably the worst starting pitcher in the entire league, whereas Montes is 7-2 with a sub-3 ERA. He's been great. In terms of this game, totals at 11, and money has come in on Oakland. I have to lean to Oakland, but that would probably be a first 5 lean. I would not be surprised to see Texas win this game. I like the way that they've been playing, but there's no way I'm backing Smiley here. So for me, I'd probably just lean to Oakland in the first 5 and Oakland on the team total over. I would just fade Smiley any way possible because he stinks. And I think that Oakland should win this game, but I would not be surprised to see Texas potentially pull out some type of comeback in the later innings behind Oakland's questionable bullpen, but that remains to be seen. Moving on, you have the Dodgers and the Giants with Buehler versus Bumgarner. Totals at 7.5. Money has come in on the Giants. Dodgers are still favored, roughly minus 155. I still lean to the Dodgers here. Buehler has been fantastic. Bumgarner's been good, but the Giants' bullpen stinks, and the Dodgers' offense caught fire yesterday. And I think that, especially after the way Seager played yesterday and they kept walking Bellinger, I think they're actually going to pitch to Bellinger a couple more times today. Bumgarner's been good, but I don't see him going more than 6 or 7 innings based on how the Dodgers batters tend to force opposing pitchers out of games relatively early, and Buehler's fantastic. So I'll lean to the under 7.5, and I'll lean to the Dodgers. I think they'll win 4-1. I think it'll be somewhere along those lines. I don't think the Giants will score that many runs. Moving on, you have the Mariners versus the Angels with LeBlanc versus Suarez. I'm actually going to lean to the over 10.5 here. Angels, they definitely played really well. Recommended the over in that Angels game yesterday, and they ended up hitting back-to-back home runs. I believe it was in the 3rd inning against Kikuchi, and I like the way that the Angels have been playing right now, especially with Ohtani back in the lineup. He has definitely provided a nice spark for them. LeBlanc was solid in his last start against Houston, but I think that was relatively fluky, and I think that's to do with the fact that the Astros have most of their key contributors injured in their lineup. Angels are cooking. Suarez has been decent, not great, and the Mariners are still a very big over team in the league, so I'll lean to the over 10.5 there. Moving on, you have the Nationals versus the Padres with Strasburg versus Perdomo. I'll lean to the under 8 there. I think that Strasburg will pitch well. I think Perdomo will pitch pretty well, and I definitely think that both these offenses will struggle today in Petco, and that is my thoughts. And in terms of the Cubs and the Cardinals, you have Hendricks versus Wainwright. I lean to the Cubs in the first 5 -0.5. Wainwright pitched arguably his best start in 3 to 4 years, as he ended up going 8 innings of shutout ball with roughly 126 pitches in his last start. However, Wainwright is pretty old, and you have to question how his arm is going to respond You have to wonder how his arm's going to respond after throwing that many pitches and now having to face an absolutely just sizzling lineup with the Cubs. They've been rolling. Hendricks has been great. I think the Cubs will win that game relatively easily. Quick question from someone: are the A's still in Oakland? Yes, they are. Not really anybody in Oakland cares about them, but they still exist. So something to keep in mind. But they are below 500, so they are definitely not relevant in the MLB scope this season, but they definitely still exist. But before we conclude with today's video, quick reminder of our sponsors at PointsBet, online sportsbook in New Jersey. A couple of great deals, up to 2 risk-free bets of up to $2,000. And they also have a great deal for the Stanley Cup game tonight. If you take a moneyline bet on a team and they are up by 2 goals at any point, you win and don't have to worry about waiting till the end of the game and worrying about choking it. If your team is up by 2 goals at any point, you can cash your bet out immediately and you will be ruled a winner. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this installment of Scott Selections here for Sunday, June 9th. Stay tuned later today for the tennis video. I know that we haven't made a video on that in the last couple of days, but there are a couple of new tournaments starting up as grass court season is finally upon us in tennis. So with that being said, look for that video later. And with that being said, good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.